Today. There's lots lined up for you on this edition, but let's get you started with news coming in from our neighborhood. Unfortunately, it's not good news for minorities in Pakistan. Day after day, we hear instances coming to the fore of abductions, of alleged rape and conversion. And this time too, we have similar information that is now trickling in from Pakistan, from the Faisalabad area, in fact, where a minor Christian girl has been abducted. We're given to understand that her family has now come out and alleged that she was forcibly converted to Islam and then married off forcibly to a Muslim man. This comes just a few days after, on the 30th of June, another Christian girl, a mother of two in fact, was found dead. That too is something that is now coming to the fore. Unfortunately, inaction on all fronts, and that is perhaps what is emboldening such attacks on minorities. So it's not just Hindus or Sikhs, even Christians there not safe in the country of Pakistan, in several towns of the country in fact. Abhishek, my colleague, joining us, getting us more details of what exactly is transpiring there in Pakistan. Abhishek, it's unfortunate. Pakistan as a country who wants to preach India, wants to play the victim card on multiple global fora, have nothing to say about what's really transpiring as far as minorities in their own country go.
Very much, Poonam. In fact, today also when Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif was in the SCO meeting, he was trying to raise that issue that operation against religious minorities should not happen. Probably he was trying to indicate towards India, but then what has been transpiring in Pakistan has been very bizarre, because this is not the first incident that we are reporting since morning today, that a girl from Christian community has been forcibly kidnapped, converted and then married to a person in Muslim community. There has been several instances in the past also where Hindu girls or girls in Sindh provinces, they have been abducted, forcibly converted. There have been incidences when even the FIR has not been lodged by the police administration, and that kind of tells the complicity that the state, that the authorities in Pakistan have had with these, these radical elements, these extremist group or these local goons, we may say. And they have stopped, taking any action against those perpetrators. So clearly, when Pakistan tries to tell the world about minority and their rights, it's clearly a double-faced thing, because Pakistan in its own territory doesn't seem to be working on such issues anymore.
And the fact that minorities are treated the way they are, that nothing changes for them decades after decades, irrespective of which party is in power, it looks like it's a state policy to not really care about minorities. That goes for Hindus, Christians and the Sikh community.
Of course, and I mean, if we can delve a little deeper into the history of Pakistan, probably Pakistan remains one of the country which has the credit of having the largest genocide. When the Bangladesh was, taken away from Pakistan, the minorities were raped, brutalized. There were thousands and hundreds of thousands of killings that happened on the indication of Pakistan armed forces. So it was very much a crime that was well planned and well organized and in a very meticulously orchestrated by Pakistan's establishment, their military forces. So we have had the history of Pakistan, its state and its military being involved in atrocities against minorities. And what we are witnessing currently in Pakistan is nothing new. We have I think in the last 4 or 5 months, there has been targeted killings of Hindus in Peshawar, targeted killing of a Hindu doctor in Karachi, which is the heart of Pakistan's economic capital. Then there have been instances of, again, forced conversion. There was this Bhil lady who was killed in Pakistan. You can just count upon the number of incidences that has happened in the past, but it hasn't changed anything in the state of Pakistan or the law agencies that they have started taking any action against these goons.
And unfortunately, the silence of the world community so perhaps emboldens one administration after another in Pakistan to not take any action. But Abhishek, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. Now, Pakistan needs to be called out not just on that front, but also on the front of terror. And that's exactly what Prime Minister Modi did today when he hosted the virtual summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Grouping. Remember, we had for the first time the Prime Minister hold a meeting in one frame. You had Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi. And the message that the Prime Minister sent out was loud and clear. He did not have to name either China or Pakistan, but the message that was sent to them was extremely clear. We all knew who that was meant for. The aggressors will not be tolerated. SCO countries must come together and fight against terror, which has become a state policy. Some nations are trying to protect and shield terrorists, and that should not be tolerated, was the clear message the Prime Minister sent out. Listen in to that reaction from Prime Minister Modi.
आतंकवाद क्षेत्रीय एवं वैश्विक शांति के लिए प्रमुख खतरा बना हुआ है। हम चुनौती से निपटने के लिए निर्णायक कार्रवाई आवश्यक है। आतंकवाद चाहे किसी भी रूप में हो, किसी भी अभिव्यक्ति में हो, हमें इसके विरुद्ध मिलकर लड़ाई करनी होगी। कुछ देश क्रॉस बॉर्डर टेररिज्म को अपनी नीतियों के इंस्ट्रूमेंट के रूप में इस्तेमाल करते हैं, आतंकवादियों को पनाह देते हैं। एससीओ को ऐसे देशों की आलोचना में कोई संकोच नहीं करना चाहिए। सिक्योरिटी, इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट, कनेक्टिविटी, यूनिटी, respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity and environmental protection, यह हमारी अध्यक्षता का थीम और हमारे एससीओ के विजन का प्रतिबिंब है।
The SCO grouping needs to jointly fight terror, needs to jointly condemn countries that follow terror as a state policy, was the message that Prime Minister Modi sent out during that virtual meeting that happened not too long ago today. We have joining us on this broadcast former diplomat Ashok Sajjanhar, defense expert Lieutenant General retired Sanjay Kulkarni also joining us on this broadcast. And Lieutenant General Kulkarni, I want to start by asking you, we've seen the Prime Minister take this wheel drive at both China and Pakistan. As far as harboring terrorists goes, both China and Pakistan are guilty of that. We do know the kind of flourishing career, if I could say so, as far as terrorists go in Pakistan. And then you have China, a fair weather ally of Pakistan, that goes on to shield such terrorists on a global platform like the UNSC.
Definitely. I think Prime Minister rightly called out to say that, look, terrorism is a threat for both, the regional as well as global peace efforts, and therefore we must not hesitate to, condemn countries which use terrorism as an instrument of state policy. And I think that was very clear. There is no denying the fact that Pakistan has been using terrorism as an instrument of state policy, irrespective of whatever it might say. And well, it did not refer to Pakistan directly, but it was absolutely clear that terrorism, we must not hesitate as members of the SCO to condemn countries which allow terrorism to be used as an instrument of state policy. Even in China, he was quite very, of course, he did not again name China specifically, but it was quite clear that obviously both China and Pakistan seem to be hand in glove in all activities that are taking place, and therefore they are a threat to the world peace. I would have been very much happy should whatever Xi Jinping had to say, primarily for world peace, if those words that they utter, mutual trust, sovereignty, and ensuring that there is a respect for dialogue in the disagreements that occur, but none that China speaks about. They intend to even respect, because China has thrown all agreements with India to the wind to do what they did in eastern Ladakh. So having said that, I think this was the right platform and very well secured coined word secure, in which again mentioning the aspect of respecting territorial integrity and sovereignty of every nation. I think Prime Minister did not hesitate, and that was clearly conveyed in no uncertain terms to countries that matter, and that was clearly taken well, because the retaliation by Pakistan was absolutely quite clear that they have taken the hint that Pakistan is very much there, and therefore you found what Sharif spoke about, that or minorities was primarily what they themselves have not shown any respect to the minorities in their own country.
Absolutely.
So all these kind of things, yeah. So I think it is very, very clear, and I think Prime Minister has very clearly brought out, and I hope and sincerely hope that words spoken by the President of China, that is Xi Jinping, also adhere to what they speak and walk the talk, and so much so that even I think is welcoming Iran was a very good thing, because Chabahar Fort is something is very, very important for us, because the Chabahar Port just about 170 odd kilometers from Gwadar, wherein again China's involvement is there, Chinese involvement with Iran, for a deal we have signed with them for about $400 billion. So there is a lot that has been said. I hope and sincerely hope that global peace and Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam that we talk about, the family, the world as a family, and not just neighbors. I think Prime Minister clearly brought out everything. Yeah.
Yes, and Ashok Sajanhar, it's interesting the kind of commentary that came to the fore from the Pakistani Prime Minister in response as well. As expected and as they've done many times in the past on multiple global fora, the Pakistani Prime Minister then went on to play the victim card to say that, we too are victims of terror. But it is them who have ensured that these terror groups flourish in their own backyard.
You are very right, Poonam. I think the world has seen through the game of Pakistan. They might have sort of, tried to play this victim card, and you would recall that they said that in this global war on terror, they had lost so many people and their economy had been devastated. And you'd also remember that in his tweet on the 1st of January 2018, what Donald Trump had said that the United States has paid $33 billion to Pakistan to fight the war on terror in terms of coalition support fund. So Pakistan has been trying to play that victim card, that they are as much of a victim of terrorism as anyone else. And you would recall that when we had the foreign ministers meeting of the SCO just about 2 months ago on the 4th and 5th of May, then Bilawal Bhutto Zardari had said that, India and Pakistan should sit across the table and talk about terrorism because both of them are suffering from terrorism. But of course, what Dr. Jaishankar said is that the victims of terrorism cannot sit at the same table with the perpetrators of terrorism. So I think this is very, very clear, whatever Pakistan might say, because you look at the 1267 committee designations in the UN Security Council, Poonam, and there you would find that more than 50% of the people who are designated, they are from Pakistan. And it is, as the Prime Minister said, it is a state policy. After all, where was Osama bin Laden found? He was not found up in the mountains of nowhere. He was found in Pakistan, Abbottabad, in the cantonment. So, whatever Pakistan might try to do, and of course, at times they have tried to play this other game of good terrorists and bad terrorists, as far as, in Afghanistan, Taliban. The other game that they try to play is that these are non-state actors. We have no control over them. But, meaning if that government is in power in a particular country, it is the responsibility of that government, of that administration, of that establishment to ensure that there is law and order in that country. So, you can't hide behind these fallacious arguments and these rules that, we are victims, these are non-state actors. I think all these have been called out, and the world is very, very clear. And all that is due to the fact that India has been relentless in pursuing this, in using each and every fora, whether it is the United Nations or it is BRICS or it is G20, everywhere India has called out Pakistan, and that is why it was put under the FATF, and that is why it has its back to the wall and is in a corner. Poonam.
Absolutely. And Ashok Sajanhar, it looks like one government after another, Pakistan just seems to be in denial, because even today we had the Pakistani Prime Minister come out and say that diplomatic brownie points should not be scored, taking a dig perhaps at India, not knowing that India will always have an upper hand because our conscience is clear, unlike Pakistan's.
No, absolutely. Meaning this is not scoring diplomatic brownie points, because this would really imply that as far as terrorism is concerned, I have the full right to continue to do terrorism against you. You are the victims, you are suffering, your people are dying, your destruction and death is taking place in your country. But you do not have the right to raise that particular issue, because if you raise that issue, then I'm saying I will go on to say that you are scoring diplomatic brownie points. That will not fly, because terrorism is a very serious issue, and that is it is also Article 1, whatever international document you take, treaty you take, agreement you take, terrorism comes up as number one issue that the whole world has to get together to deal with it. But then it is, the double-faced hypocrisy that you see in some countries. And unfortunately, Pakistan has been surviving like this because earlier, because of its geographical location, its position, it had the support from the United States, and today it has the support from China. So whatever happens in the even in the UN Security Council, when most recently, the issue of Sajid Mir went there. There also, China stopped in the way, and it was not only a technical hold or a veto, but it was a permanent block that China has put. And I think countries like India, United States, France, Britain, they really have to get together, as we did, all of us, when we tried to put Masood Azhar, if you recall, Poonam, in 2009, this issue was taken up in the 1267 committee. And it took us all of 10 years to get Masood Azhar on the 1267 designated list. So I think for the others also, more recently, I think we've been pushing back against China, and the time taken for China to lift its technical hold has become much shorter. And so I think this pushback against both China and Pakistan needs to continue, so that
and the message is quite clear, Ashok Sarjanhar, that the world stands with India as far as these kind of transgressions that come to the fore, both on the eastern and the western frontier. And I want to get in Lieutenant General Kulkarni as well once again into the conversation. Lieutenant General Kulkarni, the Prime Minister also interestingly spoke about how the need to respect sovereignty is very, very important. He also then said that that cannot come at the cost of connectivity, perhaps hinting at the CPEC project and the attempts that are being made by China.
Definitely, even referring to Chabar also, as I was mentioning earlier also. After all, the very fact that he also insisted that Afghanistan does need humanitarian assistance, and that could again go to Afghanistan, like India in earlier times also done, sent it through the Chabar for the wheat that was sent to them. Even the north-south connectivity that is there, which comes to this particular port, is concerned. Even an exit to Indian Ocean from Iran is also through the Chabar port. So there are lots that can be said, and connectivity is something very, very important, and that connectivity alone will bring in people closer. But again, talking about connectivity, yes, because that is very, very important for the world to be one. Talking about the north-south corridor also that has come up. But irrespective of whatever we might say, both Pakistan and China, I have purposely and every time felt that both these countries don't walk the talk. They might be saying anything on international platform. They do just the opposite of what they're talking. And they try and show every now and then that they are victims of it. It is not so. You find China supporting all the terrorists of being, whenever they have to be listed in the UN list, you'll find China coming in the front and saving Pakistan from it. So you find all these kind of activities these two countries indulge in are indicative that, they have been exposed. There is no denying the fact, especially Pakistan has been exposed. But all said and done, I think Prime Minister was very, very clear the way he very subtly brought out that, yes, the countries that indulge in terrorism, we must not as members hesitate in exposing them, and we openly condemning them because they are using terrorism as an instrument of state policy. Yeah.
Absolutely. The message was sent out loud and clear. It is now for both China and Pakistan to walk the talk. That all claims that they make on multiple global fora, that is something that they will have to now turn into action. We can only hope that they do that. But on that note, I thank you both gentlemen for joining us here on this broadcast with your perspective. We are shifting focus now. Unfortunately, the provocations against India continue to come in. This time around, we saw an attack on the Indian Consulate in San Francisco in the United States. The Indian Consulate, the very idea of India as a democratic republic, that came under attack, and not for the first time, for the second time in the last 5 months. Now we have exclusive information that is trickling in, and we're learning that the FBI is going to be stepping into this entire saga. The FBI will be bound to take action under criminality that is done by these groups, the vandalism, the arson that was witnessed at the particular consulate 2 days ago in the wee hours of yesterday, in fact. Abhishek, my colleague, joining us on this broadcast, getting us more details. Abhishek, what more have you gathered from your sources about where this is going to lead next? What action can we expect from the United States?
So as far as US is concerned, it looks like the pretense of having a democratic right to protest and freedom of speech is not going to shield these Khalistani separatist elements in US anymore. Because if it is, we believe our sources, FBI is going to remove them from the list of protesters, and they will be treated as criminal for their activities of crime. In fact, state spokesperson Matthew Miller today morning has tweeted that these acts of violence are crime. So now the charges will be pressed, these elements will be arrested, or the law of the land will take its due course to punish these people who have been behind such attacks in the past. Also in the past, there have been several instances, but we have not seen any concrete actions because these countries, in the name of democratic values, have allowed them to operate from their soil. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen anymore because India has taken a very strong stance on this, and the countries, respective countries, are now starting to act on these elements.
Absolutely. It's the ties with India that are at stake. That is something S. Jaishankar also made very, very clear as far as Canada went, because we saw the kind of provocations that came to the fore from Canada as well. It's Canada, it's Australia, and it's the United States now. And it's not going to end here, Abhishek, isn't it? Because we've seen a call that has been given for the 8th of July for this weekend, where we are going to be expecting protests from these key elements in all these three countries.
I think External Affairs Minister Jaishankar's recent statements in the last 2 days that the countries will have to suffer the bilateral trade or the bilateral ties, especially in the context of Canada. He had mentioned it in the past also. And now it looks like Canadian authorities have got the win. And Canadian Foreign Minister Melania Joly, she has tweeted in the morning that she's not going to accept any act or the rally that has been planned for the 8th of July, which is going to portray or glorify the act of Khalistani protesters or the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who was killed in a gun violence in a Gurdwara in Surrey in Canada. She has also condemned the poster or putting pictures on the posters of Khalistani of the current Indian High Commissioner in Ottawa, Sanjay Kumar Verma, and the Consul General in Ottawa, Apurva Srivastava, and also the former High Commissioner and ambassadors across the world of India. They have been portrayed as the killers of Nijjar, and these Khalistani elements are trying to create a momentum, gather strength that these have been, the state of India has been behind these killings. So the Khalistani elements or the Sikh sentiment should be rallying behind them. So this is something that this time probably Canada is not going to comments coming from the government. So probably Canadian authorities are going to take some strict action this time.
And it is time that, of course, and it's time that they all do wake up and take that action, because India is not going to take this lying down. That is the clear message. Abhishek, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. Let's listen into some more reactions coming in as well, because these instances keep repeating. And like I pointed out, they repeat in several countries, in the United States, in Australia, and in the United Kingdom as well, in Canada as well. These reactions now pouring in because India has made its stance clear. We are not going to take this lying down. Action needs to be taken.
After firebombing of Indian Consulate in San Francisco, Australian authorities are on high alert, as we understand right now. Concerning is the least what we can say. It's unprecedented that Indian High Commission, Indian Consulate, or its officials are being openly threatened. The posters and posts are floating on social media, especially on TikTok, for calling decisive action. And this decisive action is not for protest. This is not for making a human chain or something. This decisive action, they are calling for physically harming Indian officials here in Australia. And as yet, we haven't heard anything from Australian authorities, be it Department of Foreign Affairs, which is responsible for well-being of diplomats here in Australia. We haven't heard from Australian Federal Police or local Victorian or ACT Police. They are yet to respond to our queries about these threats to these officials. Everyone follows the law of land. Australia does not allow you to threaten anybody. The people who are responsible for all these posters and attacks on Indian. In January, the Australia Today reported there were a number of attacks on Indian Australians, number of attacks on temples, number of threats given to journalists and diplomats as well. They have to move from their house in one of the western suburb in Melbourne to or one of the regional area. I'm sorry, I can't name where they are living right now, but they have to move because of the threat to their son, who was writing something on social media and opposing Khalistan propaganda.
there was a sting operation in the Central Valley of California, and a number of people considered to be involved with gangs in the Central Valley, all of whom were of Sikh origin, all of whom were Punjabi, were arrested and by authorities here in California. So because San Francisco police is involved, potentially the FBI as well, there is very likely to be a number of law enforcement agents involved.
Also, Mr. Kapoor, why do you think there is a rise in such attacks by separatist groups in San Francisco?
Well, it's hard to say about San Francisco specifically. I mean, I've been here my entire life. My family's been here for more than 60 years. So this has always been a very unified community, largely Punjabi historically, but with Silicon Valley, it's really diversified. You have people from all the different states in India that have immigrated here, assimilated here, done incredibly well. But you do have this very large emerging theme amongst certain groups. You get that in Canada and you get that in California, where there is a group of folks that are looking for Khalistan to get formed. And
also, Mr. Kapoor, the United States State Department has condemned this attack, but on the other hand, we are not seeing any concrete action being taken against the separatist group.
Well, I think what has happened here is that there is immense dialogue between these two nations. I mean, I was very fortunate. I was actually in the very front row for that press conference between Prime Minister Modi and President Biden, and I got to see, they only took a couple of questions each, but I could see the camaraderie between Ambassador Garcetti, who's now representing the United States, and External Affairs Minister Jaishankar, and they were having a nice conversation before that event got started. So I think these two governments are working together on intelligence.
इंडियन काउंसलेट सैन फ्रांसिस्को में जो आगजनी करने की कोशिश की गई, हम उसकी कड़े शब्दों में निंदा करते हैं। ये वो लोग हैं जो भारत के और सिखों के ही दुश्मन बन बैठे हैं। जिस कारण ये मैसेज दिया जाने की कोशिश कर रही है, कल कैनेडियन एम्बेसडर और उनके डिप्लोमेट्स के साथ जिस तरह से उनकी फ़ोटो डालकर उनको टारगेट बनाया जा रहा है और ये कहा जा रहा है कि कनाडा के अंदर एक सिख का कत्लेआम में स्टेट का हाथ है, ये पूरी तरह से गलत है। भारत स्टेट सिखों की जान बचाने में विश्वास रखता है। ये जो लोग कर रहे हैं, ये भारत के भी दुश्मन हैं, सिखों के भी दुश्मन हैं और ये आईएसआई की हालतों में खेलने वाले लोग हैं। मैं विदेशों में बैठे सिखों से आग्रह करता हूं, ऐसे लोगों को आइडेंटिफाई किया जाए और उनके खिलाफ कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए।
It's inaction that seems to be emboldening these separatist elements, not just in one country, not just here in the United States, but in multiple other countries, like I pointed out over the course of this. Joining me on this broadcast is Sarah L. Gates, the director of Hindu Human Rights Organization in Australia. Ms. Gates, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. I'd like to begin by asking you, why do you think we've seen this sudden spurt in instances like this in just the last 6 months of this particular year? We have some events planned by these separatist elements in the coming week as well.
Well, obviously, they're hijacking some of the media around Modi's success in America. This is a perfect opportunity for them to leverage the interests of the broader public to speak badly of India, and their agenda is to get as much publicity as possible. You can see that on the Punjab Referendum Commission website, that they are seeking whatever kind of attention they can get, and that includes, seeking out attention from increasingly violent acts, because obviously, the acts that they've been doing so far have only given them as much publicity as they can get. And if they continue doing the same level of violence, they will continue to receive neutral baseline type of recognition or, let's say, bad publicity. They don't care what type of publicity they get. They just want publicity. So if they keep doing the same thing, they're not going to increase their publicity. I think that's why they're doing it.
Well, Ms. Gates, unfortunately, we see these kind of instances happening every now and then. We see very little in terms of action that happens. Do you think that's perhaps because of the lack of political will? And if so, then don't you think that is going to affect ties of these countries with India? Because all of these countries are allies of India. Eventually, this is perhaps going to take a strain on these ties, don't you think?
Yes, I do think that they're very keen to continue the positive relationship that they do have with India. And I think this is a good opportunity for India to put some boundaries down as to what it will accept in a friendship, and to make it clear that they will not accept any activity which threatens their sovereignty from foreign soil like this group do. So I think that's the line that they need to start taking, and to really, provide the Australian intelligence agencies with enough evidence to ban or to list this group and to really crack down on them, because that's the kind of framework that they're going to need to really root this out.
Yes. The screws need to be tightened even further, and that's the way forward to ensure that these instances do not repeat. Ms. Gates, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. This is one of the top stories that we are going to be tracking here on CNN News 18 all through the evening. Do stay tuned for that. But for now, a quick break.
Of San Francisco Consulate of India. We don't know what will happen on Saturday. Coming Saturday, there is a call by Khalistani extremists to come to Consulate and do the same what they have done in America. So let's see. We are just waiting. We will be reporting. However, the Australian authorities have to really wake up to the reality.
My colleague Anjali Pandey had actually spoken with the founder and CEO of Divya TV, Ravi Kapoor, about the separatist attack in San Francisco. Let's listen into that.
There was a sting operation in the Central Valley of California, and a number of people considered to be involved with gangs in the Central Valley, all of whom were of Sikh origin, all of whom were Punjabi, were arrested and by authorities here in California. So because San Francisco police is involved, potentially the FBI as well, there is very likely to be a number of law enforcement agents involved.
Also, Mr. Kapoor, why do you think there is a rise in such attacks by separatist groups in San Francisco?
Well, it's hard to say about San Francisco specifically. I mean, I've been here my entire life. My family's been here for more than 60 years. So this has always been a very unified community, largely Punjabi historically, but with Silicon Valley, it's really diversified. You have people from all the different states in India that have immigrated here, assimilated here, done incredibly well. But you do have this very large emerging theme amongst certain groups. You get that in Canada and you get that in California, where there is a group of folks that are looking for Khalistan to get formed. And
also, Mr. Kapoor, the United States State Department has condemned this attack, but on the other hand, we are not seeing any concrete action being taken against the separatist group.
Well, I think what has happened here is that there is immense dialogue between these two nations. I mean, I was very fortunate. I was actually in the very front row for that press conference between Prime Minister Modi and President Biden, and I got to see, they only took a couple of questions each, but I could see the camaraderie between Ambassador Garcetti, who's now representing the United States, and External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar, and they were having a nice conversation before that event got started. So I think these two governments are working together on intelligence.
We're actually going to be crossing over to our guest who's joining us on the broadcast right now, Mr. Jay Bharadwaj, who's the founder and editor-in-chief of the Australia Today. Mr. Bharadwaj, thank you so much for joining us here on CNN News 18. As we cover what's taking place in both Canada and the United States when it comes to separatist attacks, how do you see the recent incidents?
See, it's very concerning. And after firebombing of Indian consulate in San Francisco, Australian authorities are on high alert, as we understand right now. Concerning is the least what we can say. It's unprecedented that Indian High Commission Indian consulate or its officials are being openly threatened. The posters and posts are floating on social media, especially on TikTok, for calling decisive action. And this decisive action is not for protest. This is not for making a human chain or something. This decisive action, they are calling for physically harming Indian officials here in Australia. And as yet, we have to haven't heard anything from Australian authorities, be it Department of Foreign Affairs, which is responsible for well-being of diplomats here in Australia. We haven't heard from Australian Federal Police or local Victorian or ACT Police. They are yet to respond to our queries about these threats to these officials. One social media post, which was one of the most concerning, in fact, it was brought to our notice by the Australian security agencies, that it was asking to do the same what has happened in San Francisco. So he probably what not across what has happened there in US. Then we had exchange of that video which shows how it has been firebombed. And after that, probably when they understood the severity of this incident, probably there has been a meeting which we are given to understand that they are making security plans for both Indian Consulate in Melbourne and High Commission in Canberra. So the wheel is churning. However, we haven't heard anything as yet which can say that the crackdown on these Khalistan extremists is happening here in Australia. That is very concerning. If you do not strike on the root cause of what is happening, then probably these are band-aid remedies which Australian authorities are right now trying to take.
So what is the action that you... Welcome back. You're watching Nation at 5 and I'm Poonam Burde. Unfortunate news now coming to the fore of an accident that has taken place in Maharashtra. This is coming in from Dhule district, where we're given to understand that a container coming in from the opposite side collided with 3 vehicles that were parked outside the bus stand. This happened on the Mumbai-Agra highway. Unfortunately, 10 lives have been lost. Many more are still injured. But dramatic visuals now coming to the fore from Dhule district of Maharashtra, where you can see the accident that is taking place and the aftermath of that as well. Yasha, my colleague, joining us, getting us more details. Yasha, when exactly did this happen?
Yes, Puram, this incident in fact took place earlier today, wherein we saw that a truck, this was around Palestine village in Dhule, and this was on the national highway, wherein this vehicle which was coming in from the opposite end, the driver of that vehicle in fact lost control of that vehicle and ran into a nearby dhaba where there were several people who were sitting there. So now those who were sitting there some of them have been seriously injured, some have lost life. Apart from that, there were 2 more vehicles also which were parked around that area, and even those who were sitting inside the vehicle have been injured. So most of them have been taken to a nearby hospital where their treatment is on. But as of now, authorities have clearly confirmed that there have been 10 people who've lost their life. Now, of course, there'll be action that's been taken against the driver of this vehicle, and there'll be relevant sections on IPC also that will be charged. But as of now, the primary concern before the authorities right now is to ensure that those who have been injured in this incident, 10 of them, they are considering they're critically injured. Their treatment is a primary concern. That is a primary concern to the authorities, and they're looking into that. But as of now, our sources have also said that there's possibility that the number of injured, or for that matter death, could even go further because of the nature of this accident. Yes.
Right. Unfortunately, at last count, 10 lives have been lost. The Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra, in fact, has just taken to Twitter, where he's gone on to assure of all help to the victims that are getting treatment in the hospitals, also offering condolences to the families of the victims who've lost their lives in this particular accident. Yasha, do stay on with me. We're staying with Maharashtra, but now let's talk about the political tremors that the state has felt over the last 48 hours. A new Deputy Chief Minister inducted, a split in the party, a show of strength expected tomorrow. that is what we are going to be witnessing as far as the NCP split goes, as far as Ajit Pawar and his feud with Sharad Pawar goes. There's a lot that's happening. There was high drama today, this morning, when the new NCP office that Ajit Pawar was supposed to open for himself and his team, which he calls the real NCP. There was high drama there. The keys weren't available. Eventually, that office was inaugurated and is now in use. But the claims and counterclaims coming in from both those camps continues. Who has the numbers to ensure that the party does not split with a fractured mandate, that the government stays intact? That question still remains, and that perhaps we are going to be seeing tomorrow when we see that show of strength coming in from both the Ajit Pawar camp and the Sharad Pawar camp. But meanwhile, the political fireworks continue. Listen in to some of those reactions.
मुंबई में एनसीपी के 2 दफ्तर हो चुके हैं। महाराष्ट्र सरकार के नए डिप्टी सीएम और एनसीपी के नेता अजीत पवार बागी होने के बाद उन्होंने अब दूसरा दफ्तर खोला है राष्ट्रवादी कांग्रेस पार्टी। लेकिन कहानी में ट्विस्ट जब आता है कि जब इस बंगले की जो चाबी है वो अब नहीं मिल रही है। बंगला बाहर एनसीपी ने बोर्ड तो लगा दिया है, लेकिन बंगला का जो मेन गेट है वो पूरी तरीके से बंद है। न्यूज 18 इंडिया आपको दिखाएगा कि कहानी में ट्विस्ट कहां पर है। ये देखिए, यहाँ पर अजीत पवार के खेमे की जो टीम है वो यहाँ पर आ चुकी है और इंतजार कर रही है कि बंगला खुलेगा कब। ये मेन गेट है और ये देखिए पूरी तरीके से यहाँ पर लॉक किया हुआ है। और इस बंगले का पोजीशन बताया जा रहा है कि अमरदास दानवे के अंडर में था, जो उद्धव गुट के साथ है। एनसीपी के लोग बोल रहे हैं कि कल शाम तक बातचीत हुई थी, उन्होंने चाबी ली और बंगले को अंदर से साफ किया। साफ करने के बाद उन्हें सुबह 10 बजे बुलाया गया, लेकिन अब यहाँ पे देख रहे हैं गेट पूरा बंद है, चाबी लगी, ताला बंद है, लेकिन गेट खुल नहीं रहा है। अब एनसीपी को इस दफ्तर का उद्घाटन करना है, अजीत पवार को आना है।
We are here at the new NCP office. Now this is the place from where Ajit Pawar and his team are going to function. This is the Rashtrawadhi Congress Party, Maharashtra Pradesh. Now remember, this is a big move through which Ajit Pawar has made sure that there is no tiff with Sharad Pawar. Look at the strategic location of this place. We are right opposite Mantralaya, which is the state secretariat. This is the place from where the government keeps functioning, and as you can see, hoardings of Ajit Pawar, Dhananjay Munde have been put up at several places. This is supposed to be a show of strength by Ajit Pawar, who has defected, moved out from his party, along with his 8 MLAs has been sworn into the Maharashtra government.
चांगली झाली कॅबिनेट काय त्याच्यामध्ये काय शेवटी एकनाथरावांनी मी 2.5 वर्ष एकत्र काम केलेलंच आहे। एकनाथरावांच्या बरोबर जे काही 10 मंत्री आहेत ते मागेही 2.5 वर्ष आम्ही एकत्र म्हणून काम केलेलं असल्यामुळे एवढं काही फार वेगळं वाटायचं काहीच कारण नव्हतं। आणि दुसरी गोष्ट, भाजपमध्ये काही असे मंत्री आहेत, उदाहरणार्थ राधाकृष्ण पाटील वगैरे, त्यांच्याही बरोबर मागे आम्ही लोकांनी काम केलेलं आहे ते काँग्रेसमध्ये असताना। त्याच्यामुळे मला काही त्याच्यात फार काही वेगळं वाटत नाही। आम्ही विकासाच्या मुद्द्याच्या करता ह्या सरकारच्या बरोबर आलेलो आहे।
आज मीटिंग हमारी जो है उद्धव ठाकरे साहब की लीडरशिप में मीटिंग हो गई, पार्टी चीफ, और जो महाराष्ट्र में और पूरे देश में जो उथल पुथल चल रही है, ये जो राजनीति बीजेपी की चल रही है, उसके ऊपर चर्चा हुई। महाराष्ट्र में उसका क्या परिणाम होगा, उसका ऊपर चर्चा हुई। और इस संकट और संघर्ष से हमको कैसे आगे जाना है, उस बारे में मार्गदर्शन हुआ। लोकसभा चुनाव के बारे में चर्चा हुई, यूसीसी के बारे में चर्चा हुई। शरद पवार अकेले नहीं पड़ गए, हम उनके साथ हैं और वो मजबूत है। पवार साहब को मैं बहुत सालों से जानता हूँ, पहचानता हूँ। शरद पवार साहब ये बाला साहब ठाकरे जैसे ही है, अभी कभी भी अपने आप को अकेले महसूस नहीं करते। मास्टर स्ट्रोक क्या होता है, जिसके हाथ में ईडी सीबीआई जैसी एजेंसी हो, यानी जिसने अंपायर को ही फोड़ दिया है, तो मास्टर स्ट्रोक 2024 में हम भी मारेंगे ना।
लोग जिनके साथ होते हैं ना, वो तो स्ट्रांग ही होते हैं। हमारे साथ लोग हैं, जनता है महाराष्ट्र की। विधायक गए होंगे, लेकिन लोग तो हमारे साथ थे। लोग जिनके साथ होते हैं ना, वो तो स्ट्रांग ही होते हैं। हमारे साथ लोग हैं, जनता है महाराष्ट्र की। विधायक गए होंगे, लेकिन लोग तो हमारे साथ थे।
देखिए, हमारे लोग बिल्कुल नाराज नहीं है। जब एकनाथ शिंदे जी को मुख्यमंत्री बनाया गया तो हमने खुला स्टेटमेंट दिया था कि अगर हमारा एक भी मंत्री नहीं आएगा तो भी चलेगा, हमारे नेता मुख्यमंत्री बन गए, वो हमें न्याय देंगे। और सचमुच में ना कि सिर्फ हमें, वो पूरी महाराष्ट्र की जनता को न्याय दे रहे हैं और इसके बारे में हमें बहुत खुशी है। क्यों नहीं मिलेगा, उनको जरूर मिलेगा। अभी तो एक्सपेंशन होना है। ये तो एक्सपेंशन रुका हुआ था क्योंकि एनसीपी के लोग अंदर आना चाहते थे, तो उनके लिए शायद रुका होगा। अभी जो हमारे लोग अंदर आने वाले, उनके लिए एक्सपेंशन हो जाएगा। ये जो न्याय नहीं मिल रहा था, इसके लिए हम लोग सीएम साहब, उस वक्त के जो सीएम थे, उनको मिले थे, लेकिन उन्होंने कुछ भी नहीं किया, इसीलिए लोग अलग हो गए उनसे।
Yasha now joins us live to get us more details of this entire coup and the aftermath of that, because the aftershocks are going to be felt not just in the NCP, Yasha, but even within the new cabinet. The first cabinet had its meeting today. Portfolios have now been assigned is what we're learning, and that is going to create some sort of unease as far as Eknath Shinde and his camp is concerned, because they were hoping that they now get a higher representation, which doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Clearly, because we've seen that ever since this vote taking was announced, there was clearly a buzz that there's a possibility that Ajit Pawar would get the finance portfolio, which is currently with Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis. Now here, we've already seen the reaction that's coming in from both the factions. That is right from Shiv Sena, which is with Eknath Shinde, also with those who are with Ajit Pawar. But this has been clearly a buzz that while there was a cabinet expansion that was expected to take place, but we saw an oath taking, as a result of which there were several ministers from NCP who were made a part of this. Now, considering that those who've been taken into this government, they will have to also be assigned several portfolios, which could place an unease between those who are a part of the Shiv Sena Eknath Shinde faction. Now, this is not the only reason. Let us understand that when some of these people had stepped out from the MVA around a year back, they had said that they were not happy with the way Ajit Pawar was functioning. They had said that their ministers were not being allotted enough fund for their constituencies. Even several leaders were not being, the MLAs were not being given several funds, and it was all with the NCP. This was one of the reasons why they decided that they wanted to step out from the MVA and form a government with BJP. But now, with this government being formed with BJP, we are seeing the same leaders, the same ministers joining hands here, which clearly makes it a Shiv Sena, BJP as well as the NCP alliance together. Now, if there are portfolios that will be distributed, of course there's been a distribution of portfolio that has taken place, but once these portfolios are given to NCP leaders, it's obvious that the portfolios which were expected to be going to the Shiv Sena leaders, because they were expecting a larger share in the party. The cabinet expansion was something that was long spoken about, but was delayed. But with this kind of with NCP leaders coming in and this kind of an arrangement in the government, it becomes very obvious that now these portfolios will have to be divided, and they'll have to be shared with the NCP leaders, which is something that would not go well with the Shiv Sena leaders. However, when we saw that Eknath Shinde, Chief Minister, had spoken to our channel, he said that there's no such unease. In fact, they expect that the government would work together. All the three parties would work together for the development of Maharashtra. This is something that was put forth by Eknath Shinde then. But what needs to be seen is the future now of this government, and that would only be decided once tomorrow's Shakti Pradarshan is held by both Sharad Pawar faction as well as Ajit Pawar's faction. Yes.
The proof of the pudding is in eating it, and we'll have to find out who exactly has those numbers on their side. What is lying in fate of the new Maharashtra government? For the moment, Yashado, thank you so much for getting us the latest. With that, it's time for a quick break here on this edition, but lots more lineup for you on the other side. So stay tuned.
Why just recently in Australia, the flag of ISIS was banned. It's a terror organization. Fairly, everyone was very happy and supportive of that decision by government. However, when it comes to the terror of Khalistan goons, Khalistan extremists, firebombing, nobody is acting on that. Why can't Australian authorities or US or Canada or UK authorities take these attacks or threats very seriously? People have moved from their homes and living 400, 500 kilometers away just to avoid the wrath of these Khalistan goons. Why is that no action has been taken? In Melbourne itself, one family has fled because they were threatened by these Khalistan extremists of really dire consequences towards their kids, young kids. So what do? They fled from there and are now living in regional area where they think they are safe. Action should be taken, but as of now, authorities are saying there is insignificant proofs for that to take any action.
You're saying that a family in Melbourne, an Indian family in Melbourne, they fled because they were receiving threats, and you're saying that no action has been taken on this?
That's right. They have to move from their house in one of the western suburb in Melbourne to one of the regional area. I'm sorry, I can't name where they are living right now, but they have to move because of the threat to their son, who was writing something on social media and opposing Khalistan propaganda. So this has happened. No action has been taken. These facts are serious, and there is a lot of anger in Indian Australian community why action is not being taken.
It's interesting that you say all of this, because recently we just saw a very successful visit of the Prime Minister in Australia. Now, at that point, Anthony Albanese as well had said that strict action would be taken on elements. And of course, this was in reference to the separatist attacks that we've seen take place specific to Australia. But he's saying that strict action would be taken on elements that disrupt the harmony and peace of Australia. So then does that mean that nothing really has taken place post that to ensure that disruption of harmony doesn't take place?
See, I can tell you one thing very clearly.
Okay.
I'm very happy when these assurances come from the highest office of Prime Minister.
Absolutely.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese have said in as many words, action will be taken. We take security, safety of Indian Australians, especially temples, Hindus, and everyone very seriously. What then? Nothing. I'm sick and tired of these words, hollow words, which mean absolutely nothing unless action is being taken. You must have seen the videos of how people who are holding Tiranga at Federation Square in heart of Melbourne were beaten by these Khalistan goons. There are several videos. I can submit hundred of videos which are showing the 4 pictures, faces of Khalistan extremists. However, nobody has been arrested in that case even. So how will you take action? A temple is vandalized. Minister come, MPs come, they help you to clean up the walls and everything. However, no action has been taken. Nobody has been arrested. When it comes to concrete action, I find it really frustrating that Australian authorities are taking it too easy. And I can tell you that 35 years back, same way Canadian authorities took these Khalistan propagandists, extremists not seriously, and Kanishka bombing happened. And that's what we are seeing. One step forward is yesterday's incident of firebombing of San Francisco Consulate of India. We don't know what will happen on Saturday. Coming Saturday, there is a call by Khalistani extremists to come to Consulate and do the same what they have done.
Welcome back. You're watching Nation at 5, and we now have news coming in from Karnataka, where day 1 of the assembly session began on a stormy note. But the BJP's troubles are still in place, unfortunately, as far as the fight for the leader of opposition is concerned. Now we're learning that 2 national observers of the BJP are in the state of Karnataka. They are now going to be taking a final decision as far as who gets the position of the leader of opposition. This despite the assembly already being in session. Now the BJP did register its protest both inside the assembly today and outside against the Siddaramaiah government. But the fight within the BJP is something they cannot seem to find a pulse about. So now we have Mansukh Mandviya, Union Health Minister, and Vinod Tawde of the BJP, who are national observers that have now been sent to the state of Karnataka to mitigate the crisis, to find a candidate that appeals to all those who are in the running for the leader of opposition position. Harish, my colleague, getting us more details. Harish, the observers are now there, but when are we expecting a decision to come to the fore?
Well, I think what we are picking up from BJP sources is that it might not happen immediately. Today, both these observers will meet BJP leaders perhaps they might not be able to meet all MLAs, but the party saying that after the High Command decides, there.
We'll try and reconnect that line with my colleague Harish Upadhyay, who's getting us details of what exactly is transpiring in Karnataka. Remember, just to give you a recap of what the day looked like politically in the state of Karnataka, we had the assembly session that began today. It began on a stormy note. The Congress and the BJP at loggerheads inside the assembly, with the Chief Minister of the state, Siddaramaiah, leading the charge. We also had the BJP protest right outside at Freedom Park as well. This is over the guarantees of the Congress party. But the fight within the BJP is what is of interest, and that is something that the Congress has also been pointing to. Harish is now, I believe, back with us on the phone line. Yes, Harish.
Well, it's a choice for the BJP, multiple permutations and combinations being worked out. One is the caste calculation. If the BJP goes in for a Lingayat leader as the state leader of opposition, then they are looking at a Vokaliga as a state party president. Remember, that is waiting for a decision. Katil is just being there. He hasn't resigned, but his tenure is over, and the fact that the BJP has lost means that they will have to nominate a new person as the state president. At the same time, there are different camps. There's one camp which is opposite to my continuing or becoming the leader of opposition, saying that it would be difficult to really convince the party workers, especially when under his leadership, the party has lost miserably and has been reduced to one of its lowest in the recent times, and they are opposing. On the other hand, the party also has to ensure that anybody who's nominated as the leader of opposition has the approval of B.S. Yediyurappa. So all these aspects to be considered, while there is a section within the party which is saying that the party should now look at a young leader who can lead the party towards next election and can take on this government in a very strong manner. Remember, there have been complaints that there has been adjustment politics, and Basuraj Bommai went slow on probing all these corruption charges against the erstwhile Siddaramaiah government between 2013 and 18, and that led to the terrible defeat of the BJP aspect, bringing in at the same time the factions within the state BJP too, ensuring that they get more say in this decision.
Right, there are several leaders that are in the running in Karnataka, which is why those permutation combinations will have to be looked at. Harish, what's interesting is also that right before this decision was taken, we had B.S. Yediyurappa, the former chief minister here in the national capital, who met with Union Home Minister Amit Shah. He too is angling for a position for his son.
Yes, one is already state vice president. There are two aspects here within the BJP saying that B.S. Yediyurappa is backing continuation of leadership of Basuraj Bommai and name him officially as leader of opposition. That is something that we are picking up. Remember, he had backed Basuraj Bommai when he decided to step down. He wanted opposition. On the other hand, there have been several names to announce for this post. Many of them considered close to B.S. Santosh, not someone that B.S. Yediyurappa has high regards for. So there is camp politics happening.
Absolutely, and that's a tight rope walk for the BJP that they will have to look at, the two observers and of course the High Command here in Delhi. For the moment though, Harish, thank you so much. We are shifting focus to some more breaking news that's now trickling in. It is election season and the Prime Minister, the star campaigner of the BJP, is going to be on a whirlwind trip. We're given to understand within 48 hours in 2 days of 7th and 8th July, which is over this weekend, the Prime Minister is going to be in 4 states. Chhattisgarh, Uttar Pradesh, Telangana and Rajasthan is where the Prime Minister is going to be kicking off the campaign for the BJP. All of this is going to take place 5 cities in 4 states in 36 hours. Payal, my colleague, getting us more details of what's on agenda for the Prime Minister. Yes, Payal.
Well, the Prime Minister is going to be on a whirlwind trip to 4 states, including 2 poll-bound states of Telangana. In fact, 3 poll-bound states of Telangana, Rajasthan, as well as Chhattisgarh. As well, he's going to be participating in over a dozen programs in the matter of 36 hours. He'll be kicking a project worth 50 crores, 50k crores is what we're given to understand by in the Prime Minister's office. The program ranges from many cities, including Raipur, Gorakhpur, Warangal, and the Prime Minister will also be going back to his constituency, which is of course Varanasi, where he will of course be also, he will be laying the foundation stone for the Manikarnika Ghat as well as the Harishchandra Ghat as well. He'll also be doing development projects around Rajasthan, where of course he'll be, putting in the initiative for the development projects that are in Bikaner, the constituency of the Indian Law Minister, Mr. Arjuna Meghwal, amongst the many other programs as well. So right from the west, of course, it is Rajasthan to, of course, now the south, which is in Telangana. That's the kind of a travel program that the PM really has. And 7th and 8th are the 2 dates on which the PM will be traveling.
Right, so 7th and 8th, all eyes are going to be on the Prime Minister as he trailblazes through these 4 states in 36 hours. For the moment, Payal, thank you so much for getting us the latest. With that, it's a wrap from my side here on this edition of Nation at 5. Anusha joins you next.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching Viewpoint. I'm Anusha Soni. The latest attack on the Indian Consulate in San Francisco has yet again highlighted the evil designs of Khalistani terror networks. This was not the first time. Earlier, violent protests by Khalistani extremist groups were witnessed outside the Indian High Commission in March 2023. Before that, UK-based Khalistani protested outside the Indian High Commission 2018-2022. We've seen these instances, openly raising anti-India slogans. Organization and terror groups like Seek for Justice, a Khalistani separatist outfit, they organized referendums in 2020, widely circulating their propaganda. There have been several attempts on attacks on temples in Australia as well, and much more. The list is indeed a long one. Now, the spot in the pro-Khalistani activities on foreign soil has clearly earned the Indian strategic quarters, rightly so. These are groups that have propagated violence, hatred and secessionism against India. The Indian authorities have taken up these issues with the respective countries. However, many experts argue that West